would you welcome the Beatles?
Hello and welcome to Classic Rock Facts. I'm RJ. This is the channel where you can find interesting and little-known facts about the extraordinary music history of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Subscribe for new content and please check out our library for more. Have you ever wondered what Beatles history would have looked like if John Lennon had safely entered the Dakota after leaving the record plant on December 8, 1980? And what if George Harrison's initial throat cancer treatment had been totally successful in 1997? Where would the life paths of John, Paul, George, and Ringo have led through the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s? If you have ever pondered this, you will love today's topic. I have two videos in the Classic Rock Facts library that relate to this. In the first video, I examine John Lennon's planned tour of the U.S. in the spring of 1981 in support of the Double Fantasy and Milk and Honey albums. John was finally ready to go back on tour after 15 years. Second, I look at the possibility that the Beatles would have reunited on July 13, 1985 at Wembley Stadium for the Live Aid charity concert. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. In the words of author Gary Burr, fairy tales are for children, right? Fantastic tales that could never and would never happen in real life. Why can't adults have fairy tales? These are the opening lines of his alternative history book called Reunion. It was released in July of 2024. In 1998, Paul McCartney decides to honor his wife Linda's passing with a benefit concert. Paul calls his three oldest friends and says, "Let's put on a show. Can these four middle-aged men get along and forget their decades-old grievances? Will the world care? Do the lads even remember the songs?" I won't spoil the book with specific detail, but I will discuss some of the reasons I absolutely love this book. I listened to it on audiobook. It was 6 hours and 48 minutes long and read by the author, Gary Burr. If you are a Beatles fan like me, I strongly recommend this book. Before we discuss the book itself, let's discuss the author Gary Burr. Gary Burr is not just another author. He is first and foremost an American musician, songwriter, and record producer. He wrote the 1982 top 10 hit, Love's Been a Little Bit Hard on Me, by Juice Newton. Gary took over for Vince Gill when he left the Pure Prairie League. He had written songs for Lynyrd Skynyrd, Kenny Rogers, Garth Brooks, Kelly Clarkson, Carole King, Tommy Shaw of Styx, and Ringo Starr. He was guitarist and vocalist for Ringo Starr's studio band Ringo and the Roundheads in the late 90s and early 2000s. Here is an interesting classic rock fact. Being a longtime friend of Ringo, he stated he asked Ringo if the boys ever really got close to reuniting before John's death in 1980. Ringo's response was yes. He said in the late 70s the four of them were discussing the idea of a reunion concert. Surprisingly, Ringo says that Paul, John, and him were open to the idea. It was George who had no interest at that moment in time. Here is Gary talking about his book.
Welcome back. We are in full celebration of country music today because this guy has worked with all of your favorite stars and has an amazing music career himself. Gary Burr is a Nashville Hall of Fame songwriter and musician, and now he's putting his best stories on the page. His debut book is called Reunion. Welcome in. I'm so honored to have you here.
Really happy to be here. Really happy.
Give us an overview of Reunion because this is going to be a cool one. I can't wait.
Well, I tell you, it's a what-if story. We call it a rock and roll fairy tale. Yeah. And I've been working with Ringo for 20 years. And, you know, you hear the stories and you just kind of absorb it. And I was walking through New York one day, and I was thinking about, I saw the Dakota and I remember John and what happened there. And I remember thinking, you know, all it would have taken was a stubbed toe or a shower that took too long. It could have been anything that would have kept that from happening. Mm-hmm. And once that happens, you've got two separate timelines and two different realities of what could have happened. Yeah. So I wrote the book that says that what happened at the Dakota that night in December 1980 never happened. And 20 years later, they have a reason to get together, only they're 58 years old. Now, I've been in a lot of bands, and if you ask me to put together one of my old bands, I bet you the guys that were jerks 20 years ago are still jerks today. I might have been one of those jerks. But the point is, as somebody in the business and that's been in bands, this book appeals to anybody in music that's ever sat in a room with people where you know that the wrong thing said and it's all done and everybody walks home angry. And it was really exciting to try to imagine that what if story.
Ooh, I love it. I'm on the edge of my seat already. Okay, so I know that you always wanted to, as you say, quote, create music that people will remember for years to come. So I want to talk about your backstory a little bit. Let's start with that first #1 hit, that major hit, and how you became a Nashville Hall of Famer. Wow.
Well, I'm gonna make some references here that you may have to go and ask your parents about, but I went to Woodstock, the original Woodstock. And when I came home from Woodstock, I started my first band. And we played songs from the Byrds and the Beatles. And at some point, my band all said, the songs are all written by the guitar player. You're our guitar player, you should write our songs. So I started writing songs. I got lucky enough to have some of them recorded, and I moved down to Nashville, and I was here during the 90s, which was this wonderful period for songwriting, and it just took off. I mean, I was writing 3 songs a day, just diving into it. And, one after another, the songs started to get on the radio for whatever reason. I was just very lucky and very blessed to be around some really talented mentors. And before you know it, they're putting me in the Hall of Fame, and I get my name in a stone downtown on the sidewalk.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I wasn't here in Nashville at that time, but I can just imagine and feel what it felt like back then. Now, talking about today, your book, Reunion, it's already #1 on the new releases on Amazon. Congratulations.
Very exciting, very exciting.
So exciting.
I know.
Okay, so what do you hope readers take away?
Well, anybody will enjoy this because it's funny and it's fun and it's a quick read and it's music and you know the songs. But anybody that's in the music business, I'm kind of hoping that they get a little bit of that feeling of what it was like to have Beatlemania.
Yeah.
I stood on the sidewalk when a truck pulled up, and I was able to buy one of the first copies of Sgt. Pepper that came off the truck. And that was an amazing time. Yeah. And I want people to kind of get a little of that by reading this book.
Ooh, yeah, that
back
nostalgia.
into Beatlemania.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we've got to ask, what was it like to work with Ringo Starr?
It's tremendous. I still am working with him. We've got a project coming out in the fall. It's just great when you're playing with him. He'll do something that sounds like Ringo of the Beatles, and your head will spin around, and he'll just laugh because he knows what he's doing. He knows he's going to make your head spin around. He's one of the funniest people I've ever worked with, and he's the best Ringo we could ever get.
I gotta tell you, the 2 degrees of separation right now between me and Ringo Starr.
It's pretty heady, right?
It's awesome.
It's pretty heady.
Yes, and
yeah,
so
I get that a lot.
You are really cool, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out
Very
with us
happy to
here
be here.
on
Thank you,
Local
Laura.
On 2. Everyone, make sure to follow GaryBurr.com for more career updates, and check out his new book, Reunion, a rock and roll fairy tale. It's out now.
What made this book stand out for me is that it is 100% realistic and totally believable. If you allow yourself to suspend reality, you can envision these events actually occurring. The musical aspect is spot on because it was written by a professional musician. From the equipment to security, rehearsals, deciding which songs to play, and of course the corporate fighting for sponsorship. It is a great ride. As I listened, I found myself imagining this book being turned into a feature film, which would be awesome. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out our video library for more classic rock facts on the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Kate Bush, and several iconic concerts, festivals, and interviews.